Hi, everyone.
No,
and
wait. She's a comedian, this one. I love it. It's perfect.
It says live. Hey, everyone. Welcome on Bank Holiday Monday. It's beautiful if you're in England, not if you're in La La Land with Soph. It's very early. But we've done it today because tomorrow is the anniversary of 31 years of that famous game at Anfield. Oh, dear. Yes, don't worry. I'm not going to bore you for an hour with my stories. You all know it. But today, joining me, as per usual, is my pod sister in La La Land, Soph. You all right, babe?
I'm all right, baby doll. How are you?
I'm good. This is weird, me hosting a live pod.
I love it. You're going to rock it. And let me tell you, that T-shirt's a little sexy.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you about that T-shirt in a minute.
Right, fine.
And also joining me is my wonderful pod brother, Mr. Super Kevin Campbell. Right, Kev?
I'm great.
Hey! Okay, so we have two guests today. First one is Alan Algar. He's having technical problems at the moment, so we will get him on as soon as we can. And the second one is my old mate, Richard. Hi, Richard.
Afternoon, everyone.
Welcome. So let me
Rich.
just give you a bit of background about Richard. Richard and I have known each other since I was about 16. And how we met was Richard was in a nightclub in Tottenham called Ritzy. And it was a sports night in Tottenham, High Road, virtually opposite the ground. And I used to go clubbing there on a Friday, Saturday night. And I saw this boy on the stage in an Arsenal top. We were in Tottenham High Road. So I went up to him, because obviously, like I would, and said, "Are you an Arsenal fan?" Like, because obviously he is. And he went, "Yeah." And I went, "Why are you wearing an Arsenal top in a Tottenham nightclub?" I just thought he was mental. And from then on, we have been brilliant friends ever since. And then at Highbury, he used to sit behind me. So he's my Highbury friend. And Alan, are you back? Can you hear us?
I can hear you, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey!
We just announced we had technical issues and you're going to come back. So, everyone, this is Alan. Hello, Alan.
Hello, Alan.
How are we doing?
Epic now you're involved.
We just need to keep you here, Al. That's all. We just
Don't
need to
move.
keep you. Don't move. Don't breathe. Don't do anything. Okay?
Pretend you're taking a penalty.
I need to give a little shout out to someone because if you can see my new top, hold on, let me move my hair. It's red and white and I looks a bit orange, but it's because of the colour. And it's Highbury and it's from She Wore. And honestly, I love it so much that I will probably work in this when I eventually go back to work, upsetting my West Ham boss. But hey ho. So yes, well done, She Wore. I love your t-shirts. Thank you so much. So
Great
today,
t-shirt. Great
it's
t-shirt.
brilliant, isn't it? I'm going to order a few more. So
I love it. It's hot.
So today, it's really not about me and you, Soph. This is about Richard and Al and also Kevin because he was there as well. So let's start off. Alan, you said you got a unique story about Anfield. What is it? I'm dying to know. Right, Alan's gone. He's still having technical issues.
Tell you what, that's the most unique story I've ever heard.
It's very good. Unique.
Oh, we so want Alan back.
I have to make up a new banner.
Sophie, you can try and help him come back because I'm technically, not very good. Right, Rich.
So
Rich.
I was just going. I'll just pick up on the when we met. So it was me and Meta.
Yeah.
And, it was a sports night up the Ritzy. You're right. And we decided to wear our Sergio Tacchini tracksuits, and underneath our Arsenal shirts were. And we agreed at some point in the evening at a given time, we didn't quite know when that was going to be, that we were just going to undo our tracksuit tops.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and take our tracksuit tops off, which we did, and we expected a bit of a barrage of abuse, but surprisingly, it didn't go that way at all. I mean, Amanda, you came up to him and were straight away, and then there were a whole load of other Arsenal in there, including some people that you would want to be there if it got a little bit on top.
We're tasty, shall we say?
And I'm not going to mention their names, but they're well-known Arsenal fans. And yeah, it was a very enjoyable evening, actually. Talk about living life on the edge in Tottenham High Road.
Yes, you were. Well, of course it was enjoyable. You met me.
Yeah. Not been able to get rid of you ever since.
Was it about 30 odd years ago? My God.
4 years, I think.
And you know what, Rich? We used to sit and watch Kevin Campbell from the East End, and we never booed once, did we? Ever?
Rich.
I didn't, definitely.
Rich, you sat behind her. I knew she gave me plenty of stick that one.
Listen, you used to play wide quite a bit, so you're going to get stick, aren't you? Well, you can hear it, I guess, at some point.
You're right behind me on that if I played on the right side. I could hear Amanda's mouth. I know her voice. It gets to me.
No, but you know what was funny? When someone screamed, they always thought it was me, but it wasn't. It was Maria in the West End, because I never screamed.
Hey, that's the other side. I know when it's you. I know when it's you.
So anyway, right. So we're going to talk about that most amazing. It's the best night of our footballing life ever. Everyone knows my story. It's not about me. So Rich, I don't know your story, which is bizarre. I only know 1 minute of it, but did you easily get tickets?
Yeah.
So you were going to go up in the April. Sorry, go on, you talk.
Well, we'd been going all season, home and away. We didn't miss a game, majority of us. We were doing minibuses, cars, vans, trains, all manner of things to get to all of the games. And for the trip to Anfield, we decided to do a coach. We got tickets for the April game. I can't remember how we got them all, but we got them through some connection, some officially, some unofficially. Some people couldn't go when the game was on the Friday. And yeah, every single person on the coach had tickets, actually, which was a result. And even the day before the game, you had a spare because one of our friends stupidly decided that he wasn't going to go because he said, "What's the point? We've got no chance. I don't want to go. I'm going to go for a picnic with my wife to Leeds Castle."
What?
Sorry? What?
Leeds Castle.
That's what we said. Are you for sure? Are you having us on? I'm not being funny, but we still give him stick to this day.
Oh, I would as well, yeah.
Every time we get onto football, and especially that night, that always comes up, and he gets so much stick all of the time. Can you believe it?
Rich, let's be honest. If he never went to Leeds Castle, he's going to say we would have never won.
Yeah, true. True.
Yeah, he probably says that, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Okay, so you need to tell us your build up to the week and the actual day until you arrived at Anfield, and then I'll come in and ask you a couple of bits.
Yeah, people quite often ask me because first of all, did you go to Anfield? Or did you really go to Anfield? You know, Amanda, you get this all the time, right? Did you really go to Anfield? And the thing is, Amanda, you used to get lots of stick on Twitter about that, and I always used to step in and say, "Oh, she was there. She was definitely there." And lots of people, because there was only maybe 2,500 of us there, and not everybody believes that you went there, but it was an amazing journey, an amazing story. And the week leading up to it, I don't know, it was a bit of a kind of a mixture of excitement and optimism. Not nervous at all, actually. I was feeling it was like one of them nights. We've all been there. It was just meant to be, right? It was it was meant to be. Whether it was, what was I, 24? Maybe there was a little bit of youthful bravado coming out. But I honestly thought we were going to go up there and get a result. I honestly thought we were going to go up there and win.
I didn't.
But then when we scored one, then it changed it. Oh my God! Because then obviously the realisation set in that we needed to win by 2.
Yeah, but hold on, back up a little bit, just before Smith's goal. What time did you get? Yeah, what time did you get there?
We did our own coach, and we met in a pub in Chingford called the Fountain.
I've been there.
We used to run, it's a McDonald's now, sadly, but we used to run a couple of football clubs out of there, or playing Sunday League football, and we used to meet there quite a lot to go to the away games, be it minibuses, cars, coaches, whatever. And we arranged the coach for that day. The pub opened early for us. We met, a lot of us met kind of 9 o'clock, 9:30 in the morning. And I think we left in the end at about just before midday in the end, as we were waiting for a few stragglers that were coming in from all over the place. We had friends coming up from Sussex, Kent, literally all over London to meet us to travel up. And we probably left about 11:45 in the end, well oiled at that stage. So very, very excited. Majority of the coach had colours on, which was unusual for my lot, as you know.
Yeah.
Faces painted. Some people in weird fancy dress stuff. It was just quite bizarre. Everybody was in a right amazing mood, full of excitement, and we left there just looking forward to the journey, having a good old sing song, drinking more, obviously, and then we suddenly hit the M1, and then it suddenly started getting a little bit worrying and a little bit concerning because it was, as we all know, it was a shocking journey up, it was kind of stop, start. But we kind of weren't really paying a lot of attention to it. After a while, we were just drinking and having a laugh and playing music and singing. And then before we know it, 2 hours has gone by and we're not at the M6 yet. So it was kind of like that, really, the whole journey up the M1 and then across the M6. But I think we had a little bit of time on ourselves as we'd left at 11:45. I mean, I know I think you left really early, didn't you, Amanda?
Yeah, my dad. We left at 10:15 and we all moaned, but he was right, Rich. Absolutely spot on. We didn't even get there till about 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. I don't even remember actually what time we got there, but yeah, go on.
I mean, I think we got there in the end about, it was probably about 6:30 maybe eventually when we got there and parked up and all piled off the coach and just obviously just quickly made our way to the ground. It was just anticipation and excitement was building. And again, just feeling massively optimistic.
Really? Did you all feel optimistic?
Just pissed, I think.
Yeah. yeah, probably.
A bit of both, Rich. Yeah.
A bit of both. No, I mean, I genuinely, I was optimistic. I genuinely thought we were going to win it. Talk about another game just for on it, but Copenhagen, when we beat Parma, it was just one of them nights I thought we were going to win. I just had this feeling in my system, and that night I just thought we were going to win. I really genuinely did.
I didn't go to that final. That's the one I didn't go to. But okay,
anyway,
so where were you sitting? Because as far as I remember, you was at the front, but you weren't, were you?
Behind the goal, clearly.
Yeah.
I thought we were standing, but we weren't. We were in the seating section.
We were sitting, yeah.
And the reason I know we were in the seating section was because given we're coming up to the anniversary of it, there's been a lot of chat on my Arsenal chats on WhatsApp, and loads of people posted pictures up of us over that weekend and that night, pictures of the match programme and the ticket, and about 3 or 4 of my mates walked out with a seat from the stadium, which they've actually got the seat that they either the back of it or the seat that they sat on.
That's amazing.
And they've actually got that in their man cave at home with the match programme and the ticket framed with the seat from Anfield. So that's how I know we were in the seating area. And I think
you were in the seats, yeah. You were.
And if I remember, you were over to the left, almost in the corner. And I was kind of further out. I don't know.
No. I was behind the goal virtually. No.
So you was over to my right.
To your right.
Then.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think I was about 40 rows back. And it was just an amazing atmosphere. I mean, I just remember everybody absolutely singing their hearts out from the minute they got in that stadium till the end, obviously, and then some. I don't want to move ahead to when I saw you in there, obviously, because that's a bit further on in the story. But where I ended up after Mickey scored and where I was sat are completely 2 different places.
So, okay, so we can get towards the end in a minute. Yeah. But when Mickey missed the first one, what did you think?
Don't jump. The match ain't even started yet.
You know me, I'm going backwards and forwards. All right, let's go to the beginning bit. Right. So I remember...
The build-up was amazingly exciting, and then of course the nerves always set in. Any big game, the nerves then start coming, and then the whole oh my god, we could lose. We've come all this way. What a long season. All that doubting me comes in your head as well. But then I think when the players come out, we all kind of come right. We've got to get behind the team. They are beatable, albeit that at the time they were a bogey side of ours for a number of years at Anfield. I think that was the first time I'd seen us win at Anfield in about 10 visits. So, again, that then, oh my God, we haven't beaten them that often. And they were the team to beat. But then I think kind of the class of Arsenal came through, I think, for me, when the players came out with flowers and went to all sides of the ground.
Yeah.
That epitomises one of the things that I absolutely love Arsenal Football Club about, and that is about class and the things we do. Not always things that are talked about, but that I think that was massive class. There's not many clubs in the world that would do something like that and actually think about things like that. And then we got on with the game. And
right, I'm going to halt you there because we'll talk about the game in a sec. Because I think Alan's back. Are you back, Alan? Can you hear us?
I'm back. Can you hear me?
Oh my God! Just get on with your story. I'm dying to know before your Wi-Fi cuts out again. So, welcome to the show, Alan.
Great to be with you.
You are a mad, passionate gooner as well. For people that don't know you, you work in the betting industry.
That's right.
And you have a season ticket in the West End at the Emirates. So,
Yeah.
well, you're opposite me because, well, I'm East Upper and Richard is East Lower. So, okay, Al, tell us all. I'm dying to know your story for Anfield.
Well, some people might listen to this and say some of it's too far-fetched and is not true. And the rest of it might seem a bit boring, but I have to tell the whole story, otherwise
I want to hear it.
Now, I was a regular at Arsenal all through the 80s, but never going more than 3 or 4 times a season when I could, when my dad would take me with his friends. And 88, 89 was the first season where I got up to double figures in games. And the year before that, my mum and dad had actually split up, and my mum had moved to Guernsey in the Channel Islands. And I hadn't even seen her for like 6 months. I was living with my dad in London in a council place, and money was tight, and some games we just couldn't get to at all. And then out of the blue, my mum resurfaced and said, right, I'm living in Guernsey now, which is in the Channel Islands. I'm running a pub and nightclub over here. And next half term, you and your sister can come over. My dad was like, well, I don't even know, where this place is or, what this place is like, but he checked it out. And by that Whitsun holiday, he said, right, you can go over there on the Friday. You can fly over there. So my mum sends him all the details of how to meet up with her. And she just sends saying something to him. And bear in mind, this is long before mobile phones. And this whole story probably doesn't happen these days at all. I remember me and my sister, we got a train with my dad from Waterloo. And we were meant to be at Southampton Airport, which is just outside Southampton. And we're meant to be there at 2:00 to meet up with my mum to fly to Guernsey for the first time. And my dad's calculating, going, right, how am I going to get back in time after dropping you kids off to get back and watch this game? 2:00, yes, about fine. That's going to work. And it's only an hour flight over there. You'll be fine to go and watch it over there. Because that's all I'm thinking is, how on earth am I going to get to see this game? We get to Southampton Airport. There is no sign of my mum at all. There's no sign of a flight to Guernsey that day either. And we try and phone 2 numbers that we got for her at this hotel and nightclub that she's working at, and we can't get in touch with her. And we're around Southampton Airport for ages. My dad's checking to all these desks saying, are you sure that there's not a flight to Guernsey today from here? Which operator would do it? Can I speak to someone? Nothing, absolutely nothing. And it gets to and this would be about 3:30, 4:00. My dad says, look, I have to take you back to London now, otherwise we're going to miss the game. And look, there's no flight here. So me and my sister get on this train thinking, like, what is going on? As we get off the train at Waterloo, an hour and a half later, there's an announcement over the tannoy. And it's, can Mr. Alger please phone Mrs. Alger at Southampton Airport and come to the information desk? So we go to the information desk, and there's a number for my mum at this desk. And she's saying to him, it's a friend's plane. It isn't a registered plane. We got delayed leaving Guernsey. We couldn't get in touch with you, but we are here now in a little private 4-seater plane. Bear in mind, this sounds like I'm living the high life. We were from a council house in London, so
yeah,
private planes, no. We could, barely afford school clothes. So, my dad's like, well, I'm gonna have to take you back down, aren't I? So we jump on the next available train to Southampton, our second journey to Southampton that day, and we get there and we get off the train there. And if anybody's been to Southampton Airport Parkway, it's right next to the airport. It's almost next to the runway. And my mum's there waiting at the gate, and she goes and just grabs us and our bags and we run out onto the runway. And again, I don't know the security implications of this, but I swear to God, we went from the train to the runway, and I don't think anybody checked anything or anything like that. That is how I remember it. It might not be true, but that is how I remember it. And all of a sudden, we're sitting in a 4-seater plane. The interior is smaller than the interior of a car. And I don't like flying anyway. And we take off, and it must have been at about, and now I've got to get this right, it must have been about 8 o'clock. It must have been about 7:55, 8 o'clock. And the pilot is someone I'd never met before. She just introduced him as a friend. And he said, right, you sit in the front with me. My sister and my mum are in the back. And I keep asking him questions to try and work out when we're going to land and what the nearest TV I'm going to be able to get to is. And he's like, why? And I tell you why, because the biggest game ever, and I'm about to miss it. And I'm having a go at my mum, and I'm just saying, I can't believe you've done this to me on this particular day. All I want to do is watch this game. And my dad's fuming anyway, because he knows he's going to be back late into Waterloo to like catch it at a pub or something like that. So he's doing that. So we take off in this plane, and he goes, when I get clear of Southampton, I can put it on the radio for you a bit when we're on the channel. And I'm thinking, how is that even possible? But again, this sounds far-fetched. I had the headphones on at the front of this plane. He's sitting there flying the plane. And all of a sudden, when we get clear of Southampton and we're over water, he puts Radio 2 into my
God.
And I'm listening to the first, well, maybe the middle 20 minutes of the first half in these headphones. And he goes, we've got a serious problem as well, because we were late taking off from Guernsey, and Guernsey Airport has a 9 o'clock threshold for landings. Every minute after 9 o'clock back then, you pay for the lights to stay on.
Oh, wow.
You pay something like £200 a minute for the lights to stay on. So it's approaching 9 o'clock, and we're circling over Alderney, which is the other island as you come in. And he said, look, I've got to take the radio off you now, because I need to line up with this. He said, like, we're 5 minutes and we've got to get down. Otherwise, I'm going to be ending up paying all this money. He gets down at, say, 2 minutes to 9, something like that. And I'm saying to my mum, where are we going? Because I don't know where she lives. I don't know how big the island is. I just said, like, we need to get to a TV now. So we get into a car. I forget whose car it was, but we drive into town where her hotel and complex is. And Guernsey's licensing laws were so strict then. Like, a kid couldn't even be anywhere near a pub. And we get to this place, and there's a restaurant and a pub and a nightclub, and it's the place that she's running. She said, like, you're only allowed in the front bit, which is the restaurant. I said, where's the TV? She said, it's in the pub. In the corner. And again, I have to cast people's minds back. This is obviously days before mobile phones, but it's also the days before pubs would have like 7 TVs.
Yeah.
Like one small square TV, like box TV, right in the corner of the pub. And I said, well, how can I watch it? She said, you can't go through there. You're going to have to. And I worked out that I could stand and see the screen through a gap in where the restaurant was, and the toilet came down the stairs. So I was standing in this gap of the restaurant and the toilets looking through. And that was probably 10 minutes before Smith scored his goal. And then obviously I stayed there and then watched this whole game just through a crack between all these people in a pub. And the amazing thing is that Guernsey is really weird in the sense it's got a load of Manchester United fans over there. And even then, and this was obviously before Man U had become huge in the 90s, this was obviously 89, but everyone was cheering on Arsenal, and it was unbelievable. And I managed to see everything through this tiny crack, watching this small TV that was probably about 25, 30 feet away, and saw obviously the goal and celebrated in this little stairwell on my own, going mad as people in a restaurant just next door to me. And then I was like, I need some money. I need to phone Dad. I need to see where he got to. And, phone my dad. There's no answer. So I'm thinking, well, he must have, again, no mobile. So he's not on the home phone. He's obviously watched it. And then subsequently found out he managed to get off at Waterloo and see it from about 20 minutes into the first half onwards and watched it there. But
that's amazing. You must have been so stressed on that plane. I would be going mental because you just don't know if you're even going to get to see it. But you know what I love? I love the fact that everyone's got a story. Honestly,
I always
everyone
say, and obviously my mum stayed in Guernsey, and we got better at sort of going over there for holidays, and she got better at keeping her end of the bargain and being around. And then I say, well, I always remember the first time I ever came to Guernsey, and I always remember this. And that day just sticks in the moments. When people mention '89, I'm thinking all those things. Even when I see the documentary and watch that. And the funny, I live in Barnet, and Paul Davis was walking along the road the other day. I thought, I've got to stop him sometime and have this chat with him about it, because I never bother him when I see him in the high street. But that was it. And then after that, I came back and finally got my season ticket and managed to go to every game. I thought, I'm not missing anything ever again.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So did you know what I love about that, though? Like, real quick, is you said something so poignant, because the technology factor. You couldn't call anyone, you couldn't text anyone, you couldn't FaceTime, you couldn't. So once you lost contact, that was it.
Yeah.
And that and then, I know you'll get to the rest of it, but it's so poignant, because today we can just connect so easily if we lose each other at a game or we lose connection during a game.
You could have watched it on your phone. It's just so different.
That part also adds to the magic of it all, I love it. So brilliant story.
So, Al, as I said before, everyone has got their story of where they were that day and everything. So what you missed when we had your technical issues was Richard. Yeah. Richard was to the left of me at Anfield.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. And what's funny? When I joined Twitter, I've been Arsenal all my life, and I'll just tell this quick story. I've never encountered anyone distrusting anything I've ever said. So it was a bit odd for me that people would go, yeah, of course you're at Anfield. You're just jumping on the bandwagon. And I'm like, no, I didn't really understand it. But then I made Richard join Twitter just so he could tell people that he saw me. Because it's a weird concept, because when something's very natural, like for you, the whole of your being on that airplane was just to watch the match. You couldn't care less about getting to Guernsey or anything. You know, that is a sign of a true fan, isn't it? You're only young as well. You're younger than me. Is the fact that when social media would have been there that moment, you wouldn't have missed a thing. You wouldn't have had to watch it through a crack. Nothing. Exactly. It would have been great. But you did make me laugh when you went the whole island was Arsenal. Well, if they're Man United fans, of course they're going to be Arsenal. Honestly, the amount of people that contact me regularly from City, Everton, Man United, they all love tomorrow. 31, it's one of their non-favourite team, if you understand, not their team matches. Yeah. They love it. They just said the North went mental because they didn't want Liverpool winning. They wanted us to win it. But, from then on, though, Al, did you go to any other finals? Were you at Copenhagen? Because I didn't go to that. It's the only one I've not been to was Copenhagen.
You don't want me turning up at Arsenal European finals. You really don't. Because I managed to miss Copenhagen from not being able to go on my own. To go to Paris the following year on my own.
I went to Paris.
Went to Copenhagen again in 2000, and then back to Paris. So within that 11-year period, I saw us lose all 3 European competitions. I worked out the other day, we were only behind in all 3 of those games that I saw us lose. Cup Winners' Cup, UEFA Cup in Copenhagen, then the Champions League final in Paris. We were only behind for 19 minutes of all that time I was ever at those games. Yet we managed to lose all 3 finals that I went to. I didn't get to the one last year, just pure logistical reasons. So
no, I didn't go last year.
I think that broke the spell in that we can still lose if I'm not there. But I would like to see us win in a European final. Yeah.
Well, I've only ever been to one final.
Get yourself to Guernsey. Get yourself back to Guernsey.
Every time we play, you've got to go to Guernsey.
Book a trip.
Were you in Guernsey for the Champions League final? No, you weren't, were you? No.
I was in Paris.
Yeah, see, I was in Paris, so then we didn't win. It's the only ever European match I've ever been to was the Stade de France. Yeah, it's the only one. I've never done Europe away. I did England, like a lot of clubs in England when we played, but I haven't been. And the only one, and I was crying. We
were so close to winning that. So close, and the things just didn't go our way. And I can't bring myself to even watch.
Oh no, I've never watched it since.
I can't read anything about it, and I can't watch the game. I just don't even want to entertain having a conversation about it because it upsets me. No, but I honestly,
Richard, when you guys think about that, because Super Kevin Campbell was there the last time we did win a European trophy, and I'd like to just rewind for 2 seconds before we get onto some of these other finals, because I want you guys to talk us through as well your emotions in the game, because George Graham was a mastermind, okay, and he was the architect of that game, and Super Kev will tell you that he orchestrated it it's like a movie: first act, middle act, the final act. And the fact that, Wenger wasn't able to deliver the big one, you have to go and look back, and even Smudger said recently that George Graham is underappreciated. So I'd love to know your perspective from that, and then Kev to interweave into, for him, like the moments you were experiencing and what he knows from being behind the scenes as well. Because to me, that's the magic of this moment, is his orchestration of this insane result.
But he believed that he was going to win it.
Well,
and let me just say 2 things that I found out this week.
3-0 George Graham thought, remember? He thought we were going to win 3-0.
But, I was listening to a pod that Mickey Thomas was on this week, and 2 things I've learned. First of all, he was only 20 when he scored that goal. And, when you think about 20, and he's had to live with that all his life, because wherever he goes, whatever Arsenal fan ever sees him, it's a bit similar with me when I see Smith, isn't it? Alan Smith. I always say the same thing to him. Did you actually touch it? We joke, obviously. But it's something that it's folklore, isn't it, for us? But also something else I didn't know, and this came out of Mickey Thomas's mouth, was that he grew up as a Tottenham fan, a staunch Tottenham fan, and he went over Tottenham and loved Tottenham, and then ended up on Chelsea's books and then Arsenal's. But I didn't know that. So there's 2 things I've learned about Thomas this week. I won't hold it against him, because I could never hold anything against Mickey Thomas ever in the whole world. But what Sophie's saying, Kev, actually, I was going to bring you in, because one of our Twitter followers asked this week, where were you, and I've never asked you this, in the build-up, the couple of days before? Were you with everyone or not? Because I know you came up on the day of the game, but go on.
Yeah, we're in London. Remember, we played Wimbledon in the week. That week, we played Wimbledon, I think it was on the Tuesday. That game finished 2 each.
Yeah.
And then everyone, you had your meltdown, Amanda, and it was just preparation. George Graham said, look, guys, it's gone. We've got a shot. He was so positive about it. So we were all training together, because remember, the league had been extended. So we were just there training, playing practice matches. I was on the team that, of sort of the guys who weren't playing, that were going to try and mirror Liverpool and what the team were going to do, etc., etc. So it was preparation. George Graham was meticulous at it. Yeah.
Okay, so Rich, we know you thought we were going to win it. Al, did you think we were going to win it?
I did. See, I've tried to think back to that time, because obviously, watch the documentary, and I've talked about this story even with, friends and family and going over it. I was confident. I was confident. I don't know why though. When you see it spelled out, and as Kev just said then, when you see it spelled out by the way George Graham was thinking, I didn't think that. I mean, I wonder if I'd have known what he was telling the players, I'd have been more nervous, because of the way that it gets described. It's like, oh yeah, it's absolutely fine because we're going to do it this way. And in my head, it's the not knowing. And I know Amy Lawrence tries to explain it in her. I think she said something about she saw the West Ham result. Because remember, West Ham were away at Liverpool, and whatever they did meant that we extended past 2 goals that night.
Yeah,
was going to be what the margin that we had to win by. And she said she got her maths completely wrong, because she thought that 4 meant 4 when it didn't, because obviously every goal we score against Liverpool is a goal off of theirs. So we only need to win by 2. And she said when she'd said that to her dad and she got the maths wrong between 4 and 2, she suddenly felt more confident. She's like, oh, here's me thinking it's 4. It's actually half that. It feels even better. So I think everyone had their own way of coping. But I'm almost certain if I knew what George Graham was thinking, I would have felt worse, if you know what I mean, because it seems too simple the way he explained it.
But he truly believed, didn't he, Kev? He truly believed that he was going to win it. I didn't. But so what was he like training those few days?
Do you know what? Training it's quite interesting because normally before any of the finals, training gets a bit chippy because, you know, the pressure, everybody wants to play. Obviously, the manager hasn't named the team, so training gets a bit physical kind of thing. But this was fine. Everyone was in good spirits. The lads, some of the lads had probably thought, you know, look, we've got nothing to lose, but what we're going to do, we're going to get smart. And, you know, we're going to prepare as best we can. George Graham used to sit the team down after training and say, look, guys, we know what we're going to do. We're not going to do what we normally do and go up into Liverpool and let the red lot, you know, get into our heads. We're going to go up on the Friday morning. So all the lads were like looking at each other Friday morning. He says, and we're going to go up there. We're going to go in like the SAS, you know, and we're going to go up there. We're going to get the right result and come back. And, you know, everyone would just look at each other. Okay, the manager's confident. And that began to grow slowly but surely. So the Wednesday, the Thursday, and then I remember meeting Rocky at Brixton Town at 5 o'clock on the Friday morning. Us going up to Highbury, putting the skips on the bus, that type of thing. And there wasn't any pressure on Arsenal. That was the great thing. There was no pressure on the team. We met up with the other lads at London Colney. Everyone got on the bus, and I think George Graham, I've mentioned it before, going up, it could be difficult. But what did he do? He put the 1971 FA Cup final on, where he was supposed to have had touched that goal with the header, and for about 45 minutes it was kept getting rewinded because it was the old VHS tapes. So someone had to stand there and rewind it. You never got a touch, and there was a banter going on the bus. And that kind of broke the ice down a lot as well. You know, it was a fun trip up to Liverpool. That's for sure.
Kevin, when did he reveal the 5 at the back? Because in the '89 doc, I think is it Tony Adams or Lee Dixon says 5, but we need to score. And like when did that break through the team?
The funny thing is, during the training, we practiced 4 and 5.
Right.
But everybody just presumed, you know, there's no way. If we need to change and go to a 5, that pushes the fullbacks even further forward, and we could go for it from there. So they were thinking reverse, but George had something different in his mind.
Yeah.
George said, if we get to half time and it's 0-0, we've got Liverpool where we want them. You know, it's like, really? Yeah. But he knew what he needed to do. Don't give them a leg up. Keep it boring as anything, or, you know, just keep it placid for the first half, and then we can go for it second half.
Okay, so we all right. So you're in Guernsey looking at a screen through a crack.
Yeah.
Kev, where were you? Were you in? I know I've spoken to you about this, but you were at the front, yeah, or not?
No, we were sat in the Arsenal. The boys who weren't part of the squad.
Yeah.
We sat with the Arsenal fans behind the goal. Yeah. So we were probably 10 rows from the front. There was a block of us. Myself, Paul Davis, Alan Miller, Stephen Morrow, and all the other lads who didn't play. So there was a block of us inside with all the Arsenal fans. So see some of the faces who we knew and stuff like that. So we're seeing them and going speaking to them, etc. And then we were there until about 5 minutes before the end. Hold on a second.
Hold on. So did you go mental when Smith scored? Did you act like fans, all of you?
What do you expect? Of course we did. We were up. We were hugging each other. We were hugging fans. We didn't quite crowd surf like Rich, you know what I mean? End up right over the other side. But, you know, we had the suits on and stuff like that. But, you know, it was amazing for us. And then you're thinking, well, we just need one more. Then, obviously, I don't want to jump, but Mickey Thomas has the first chance. You know what I mean? And we're like, no.
So me, you and Rich were probably in the same vicinity because I wasn't 40 rows back. I was about 15. I didn't see any of you lot, though, but about 15 rows back. And Rich was probably the other side. And yeah, we were probably all in that little vicinity. But I had friends around the bar bit, the one that stands on the bar with the yellow top on. And and the Arsenal top, they're mates of mine that they love the fact that it was recorded and they're on that bit. You'll know the bit. It comes on 89 as well.
Yeah, you see it.
Yeah. They're mates of mine that I've known even before Richard. But it's an amazing thing because I only remember certain bits. Definitely the flowers for sure, as Richard mentioned. But let's get into the game a second, okay? He did have this game plan. He was happy it was 0-0 at halftime. We all know this, which I'm still shocked because, yes, I did have a rant on radio the week before. I think it was after the Derby game, to be honest. Was it Derby? I don't know who.
Derby. We lost 1-1.
I went on Capital Gold and went mental and just said, it's ridiculous. I'm going to Liverpool. We're not even going to win. Anyway, that's by the by. So, no, I did not think we had a chance. But on the other hand, we were the underdogs anyway. We had nothing to lose, nothing, because no one beat Liverpool in those days anyway. So I was just going for the experience, and it was my first time at Anfield, my first time in Liverpool. Everything was amazing, and yes, and thank God we did listen to my dad and leave at 10:15 in the morning because we were there by 4:00 being interviewed with Lofty. Honestly, my stories everyone knows anyway. So let's just get to Rich. So Alan Smith scores. And I know all you lot, so I know you lot would have gone absolutely mental like we all did, to be fair. Everyone went mental. But then did you believe? Did you believe that we could do this?
Like I said earlier on in this chat, I believed on the day, on the way up there, I believed. And I think if that game was now in the society we live in now, with the amount of exposure to media around football, I think it would be probably quite different. Back in those days, we weren't, we get it 24/7, right? It's on the telly, it's social media, it's in the newspapers, it's on the news. We're bombarded with this information and this build up to big football matches. So therefore, we get wound up, we get caught up in all of this. Back then, I don't think, we weren't. For me, I didn't feel pressured at all. I wasn't worried about the game. If anything, it was a jolly out with my mates for the day on the coach. But honestly, on the mood, we were all very relaxed and we hadn't been worried at all because there wasn't anything to see to be worried about. And interestingly, going back to what Alan was saying, in the film 89, when you start seeing some of the team talks that George gave, he was so calm. And he was the one that drove that belief in the team. Because after losing to Derby, then drawing to Wimbledon, I mean, that confidence must have been low, must have been taking a right knock. And as fans, I guess as well, like you went on a rant, Amanda, I probably just went out and drunk lots and swore a lot. But coming towards the day of the game, I actually started feeling quite confident again. Why not? We had nothing to lose. And I genuinely thought we would win up there. Now, whether I genuinely thought we were going to win by the 2 clear goals is debatable. But yes, I just wanted to kind of pick up on those points. They were going through my mind as we were talking.
But it's interesting because going back to what Alan said and asked Kev about the back 4-5 thing, when you listen to Dixon, I finished the podcast yesterday. He said that he wanted a back 5. He said if he had to look after John Barnes and do other jobs, he was going to be in trouble. But if he only had John Barnes to look after, he could deal with it. And it was really interesting listening to him talking because I've not heard this before, and I thought I knew everything about that night. But it was really interesting. He was thrilled that there was a back 5. But you get to that stage where every Arsenal fan, as I said, has a story of where they were watching it, how they felt. We all felt the same, obviously. But I'm telling you, Rich and Alan, still as Alan Smith scored, I thought we were going to do an Arsenal. Because even in those days, there was such a thing as doing an Arsenal.
Yeah, there was. There was.
We would fuck up in the last minute. Something would happen. Knowing us, this is what I was saying to my dad. We'll score, but we just won't get 2. It will be the unbelievably so frustrating. We'll win this game, but we won't get 2.
Going back to so obviously when Smudger scored, of course we all went ballistic first of all, but then of course there was the
reality sets in.
No, well, hang on a minute, have we or haven't we? Because all the Liverpool players,
yeah,
and they used to get so many decisions at Anfield.
Yeah,
and there was that whole, oh my God, hang on, have we scored? Haven't we scored? Because you've gone from that whole moment of euphoria to really just massively worried and massively concerned, because I thought playing 5 at the back was genius. Stop them from their attacking strengths in that first half, genius. And then the second half opened up a little bit as the game went on, genius tactic. But then when we scored, and then, oh, hang on, no, we haven't scored. And then we have just an emotional roller coaster right there. It's incredible.
And also, remember something else as well. It was awkward for Liverpool. They didn't need to score. They didn't need to do anything. They just needed to keep 0-0.
Don't feel sorry for them.
But you know what it's like, Kev, as a player. Kev, if you knew...
Amanda, hold on.
No, listen, Kev.
Amanda, hold on. I want to ask Alan, what did Alan do when Smudger scored? Because he's looking through that crack.
Oh, yeah.
I want to know, what did you do?
The thing is, and I think it was Richard that pointed it out, right? If this game had happened in this current climate, the people that were in the restaurant would know exactly what was going on in the other room, because everyone's into football these days, or at least fakes that they are. Back in '89, you know, it's
fashionable. I know what you mean.
It was weird. I mean, out of my school friends, you had the kids that supported Liverpool because they won all the time, and this is in South East London, but that supported Liverpool that won all the time. Then you'd have the real, you know, the people that were into football. And there'd be people that went Charlton with their dad, and they'd go to every game. And there'd be the guy that went to Millwall with his dad and went to every game. And I'd go up to Arsenal, and a couple of kids went up to Tottenham. There was only probably 5 or 6 of us that were massively into football and regularly went to games. Everyone else, it was just a bit of a sort of side thought. And I think same with that. And I remember really cheering that goal, and people from the restaurant looking at me like I was mad. I mean, and again, this is in Guernsey as well. There were people in the bar, and they cheered Smith's goal. And to this day, I won't know how many actual Arsenal fans were in there as well as me. Probably none. But as I said, there's a big Man U following over there, and you knew that the support was behind Arsenal, but it was still almost incidental to what was happening. I'm not trying to do it down and say it didn't matter. Of course it mattered, but I don't think you realise how much the whole world has changed in that, especially with social media. Everyone's into football, at least has their opinion these days. Whereas me cheering in that stairwell did get funny looks like, what's he doing? Is there a game? You know, I know it sounds mad. Is there a game on? Because not everyone was focused on that. So I remember cheering it and then looking behind me like that into the restaurant with people looking over, and then obviously the noise coming from the pub, and then sort of quietening down. But again, I also remember thinking exactly as you said, Amanda. Yeah, well, one, it's not enough. And I know he says it in Fever Pitch. He said, "Well, you can't score the second goal first, can you?"
I love Fever Pitch.
It's that thing. It's like, oh, I knew we'd get one, but we're not going to get 2, are we? But you know, to get to 2. And another thing that Rich says, and again, this was what you'd had the beef with the Liverpool fans at school, because they never went to games. They just picked a team that won all the time. You try and say they get penalties at the cop end all the time. They get all those decisions. Same as we said with Man U before we overturned that in the 90s. But it was definitely true. There was no doubt in my mind that was going to get overturned, because that's what used to happen. They used to rule the roost with the officials. And I love the fact that they tracked the referee down for the 89 documentary, because the way he goes through it, you think, obviously you weren't that calm at the time. It's like, is there any reason for me to disallow this goal, is what he said to the linesman. And the linesman went through all the rules with him, and he said no, and then gives the goal. And that kind of thinking, when you've got players of the calibre of the Liverpool squad all sort of beating down you like that. And again,
putting pressure on him, yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, but interesting regarding that goal, the Liverpool coaching squad knew it was a goal because they looked at replays on TVs apparently straight away, and they knew it was a goal. Look, the players had to try it. You know, it was just, I don't remember that bit, Rich, actually. I don't remember stressing at that bit. I think I wasn't even looking at the I think I was facing the other way, being kissed and lifted. I remember being lifted up. So everything was very, I think my dad was like, oh my God, he's talking to the ref. What are they talking to the ref for? And as Al said, they got every decision, didn't they? It was always penalties at Anfield. I know they say that about other teams, but we always felt like that. And it took balls for that referee to do that. And thank God we didn't have VAR, because God knows how long that would have gone on for. But okay, so we now move on to the bit where every single Arsenal fan on the planet it's just it's just I can't express. If you're watching this and you don't really know much about Anfield, we're not exaggerating. We're not being dramatic. It was the most dramatic ending of any football match, regardless of what City did, ever, because of the circumstances, because it was Liverpool, because it was at Anfield, because of every other reason possible, that they were the best at that time. And we'd not had a great week, and they had. And then all of a sudden, and I want to get it from Richard's perspective and Alan's, Dixon gets the ball. So from that minute, Rich, we had a minute left. I mean, I didn't see Steve McMahon do his 1 minute on the pitch.
Amanda, take it from John Barnes.
Yeah, okay. So it's interesting, isn't it? Because John Barnes spoke about this as well, is that I don't know what John Barnes was doing, and no Liverpool fan ever to this day will know what John Barnes was doing.
I heard a theory. I heard a theory, and I forget who said it. And again, it might have been on the documentary, might have been on the podcast now. And it was that what benefited us at that time is that Liverpool always played football, and they couldn't switch into a mode of taking it to the corners. And especially someone with as much flair as Barnes, it would have been so alien to him, being so skillful, to have just gone and shielded that ball in the corner. And that was the theory that they had. But
Al, that's my point about it was hard for Liverpool, wasn't it? Because they played football. So to come out and go, well, do we go for a couple of goals or do we not?
It was hard for Liverpool.
Yes,
because they
don't play a defensive. Right, Kev, listen to me.
They're at home.
No. Listen, Kev,
hold on.
It's
they're
whether
perennial
they
winners. They are perennial winners.
Yes.
You're talking about this great Liverpool team who have dominated England and Europe. They're perennial winners. They're playing at home. And if you remember rightly, Kevin Richardson was down injured just a couple of minutes before John Barnes picks the ball up. So he probably hold on, just let me finish this. He works his way past, I think it was Tony Adams or David O'Leary, and then it's only Kevin Richardson left. So he's probably thought, actually, I could beat Kevin because he's injured. Kevin Richardson does well and nicks the ball back and gets it back to John Lukic. So
but my point is, Kev, when I say it's tough for them, I don't mean that. I mean it's a real weird one, because what Al said is true. They only played football. They couldn't do what we did and defend, could they? That's not their game. So they've come out, they don't know what to do. And that's what I think happened that day. And that's why Johnny Barnes did what he did. So he gets the ball, it gets back to Lukic.
You just call him Johnny Barnes. That is
Johnny
large.
Barnes, yeah. I love Johnny Barnes.
He likes that. He likes that. Johnny Barnes.
I watched Harry's Heroes this week, and I thought he was brilliant on it. Anyway, so Rich and Alan, really.
Let's go back to, first of all, once Smudger had scored, because given my optimism at the beginning of the day and given my certainty that we were going to win the game, what that did was just rubber stamp all of that, and we just sung even louder, and the belief just went through the roof, honestly. And it just that level of excitement built and built and built, and we sung and we sung and we sung. Didn't sit down, obviously. And then
no, I did sit down actually.
And then of course, when was I'm trying to think. Kevin, you mentioned it earlier. When
Michael Thomas's opportunity
when Mickey got through. I mean, we all thought that was it. We all thought, here we go, that this is it. And when he didn't, I think that's possible. I mean, how long into the game was that? Into the second half?
74, 72, something like that. I think.
Yeah, 70-something minute, yeah.
And the thing is, we've talked about how dominant Liverpool were and how difficult they were to beat at home, particularly. And to get chances at Anfield, there were so few chances at Anfield. Even still now, right? You don't get a lot of chances at Anfield, unless they're having a bad day. So when Mickey went through and then fluffed it, which was not expected, then it was like...
the doubt set in again, didn't it?
Then the doubt starts setting in.
Yeah.
But you just pick yourself up again. You just sing louder and louder and louder, and you got to get behind the team and give them everything to try and lift them. Yeah. Alan, where did you go from Smith's goal?
Well, from Smith's goal, I remember thinking, right, I was breaking it down into 10-minute periods. Like, we need to score within one of these next 10-minute periods coming up. So it didn't really matter. And you think. And it's it's weird, the passage of time. You're thinking 10 minutes is long and sort of 28 minutes, that's long enough. But then as it started to tick down and that got closer and closer, I remember it going from the optimism of maybe getting a second or at least a chance to get a second to squaring it off in my head that we hadn't done it. And you can tell that a lot of that from the commentary at the time. Pleat says, well, at least they won and, it doesn't mean anything. But I remember at least squaring it off in my head. And it's almost like when you're at school, you sort of get that thing in your head that, well, that's what I'll say back. You know what I mean? When I get stick about this.
We won the game, yeah.
Yeah, well, at least we won the game.
Yeah, like it's going to make a difference.
Yeah, exactly.
What was David Pleat saying? Poetic justice or something, wasn't he?
Yeah.
At the end of the game.
I'd reasoned in my head that, and I thought to myself, well, it's going to be bad. And then you think back, and I remember thinking about the midweek game and the Derby game more in that final 20 minutes than anything else.
Because you get annoyed.
Why are they putting me through this when it would have been easier?
Isn't it?
But I didn't think that at the time with those games. I mean, obviously I was disappointed, but that disappointment in those other two games really hit me in the last 20 minutes of the Anfield game.
But it's interesting you said about Thomas and the miss. I thought it was 3 or 4 minutes before because of time. It was so.
Time just went so fast.
It just went so fast. So I thought, this is it. I got a little bit more optimistic after Smith scored because I thought, oh my flipping God, we could do this. We could do this. But then my fear came in of, but if we let a goal in, it's all over, and then it kept going like this in my head. And then when Thomas missed, and I was only saying this last week, I said to my dad, should we go, miss the traffic? He looked at me like I was mental. He did. He said, no, we don't ever leave a match early, and we never have. I said, yeah, but you know what? We're not going to score it. And I was a petulant teenager, wasn't I? I was 19. I was like, no, let's go. I don't all that traffic coming down. I was more worried about the bloody traffic and having Liverpool fans taking the piss out of us walking out because I wouldn't have been able to handle it, not to lose it like that. So
it's called nerves, Amanda.
Oh my God, I'm terrible. I'm not like Rich. I'm the opposite. I'm a terrible worrier. When it comes to Arsenal, I'm positive when no one else is.
Can I ask Kevin a question? Kev, as a player in those big games, do you feel the nerves during it? I mean, obviously you can hear the crowd, and how the hell how do you feel going through it?
Do you know the funny thing? When you're actually on the pitch, you hear the crowd, but it's like a din because you're concentrating so much on your job because that's what you have to do. Because if you get taken away by the crowd and the noise, you can't perform. So you're concentrating, and you could see there were times in that, especially the latter part of the game, where you could see the lads really concentrating on what they have to do, getting their tackles in, getting close to Liverpool players, and not letting them get an inch on them. Obviously, they're going to get away at certain times, but Arsenal done a fantastic job in that second half. But really, it's the focus of the team that I look at whenever I watch 89 or whatever, or watch the highlights. The focus of that team they were so focused on doing the job. It was brilliant.
Super Kev, when you're on the bench, because I was listening to Darren Fletcher talking about the Champions League game the other day on TalkSport and stuff, like, in one of the biggest games of your life, Survival Sunday, you had a big impact. You're on the pitch, you're captain, you're able to affect the game. But in a game like this, where the stakes are so high, and it's a historical moment, everybody knows it, and you can't be on the pitch and you're watching from the sidelines as a player, that's the worst feeling in the world, isn't it? When you're sitting on the bench and you can't play. Yeah,
I'm a young player. But I'm an Arsenal fan as well.
Right.
You're even more invested, if I can say that, because you train with the lads, you know how they prepare, you know the work they've put in. They're 1-0 up, and you're going for that winner at Anfield in enemy territory, and you miss a chance. Mickey Thomas, we used to go to the same school. Michael Thomas is a few years older than me, so you could imagine that I'm hoping, God, Mickey's scoring it, don't go in, and you think, oh no, could that be the last chance? And then we get led out 5 minutes before the end, round to where the dugouts were. All the players. So we're standing there. And the game's playing out, and you can see McMahon there 1 minute and stuff like that. So the whole drama of it all is it's all in a pot, and it's all getting mixed up. So that's what I love about
soap opera.
Well, that's what I love about this. It's all the different perspectives.
Yeah.
Kev, I thought you was in the stands and got led out after. So you were around the dugout when Thomas goes through.
Yeah, we got led out 5 minutes before the end.
Right.
So you got to remember, I think there was a few minutes extra time, wasn't there? So
Yeah.
about 85th minute, something like that, we got led out. And do you know what? When we got led out, all the fans were cheering and all that kind of thing. So it was brilliant. So we walked it round to the side. Before you know it, we're in injury time. John Barnes picks the ball up.
Right, so let's lead on from there then. So Al, you're standing. Were you standing on a table or something? I know, this is it. This is what we're going to discuss right now before the end. So
they had this coin-operated phone box that was in this alleyway that went down the stairwell that went down the stairs to the toilets that served the club and the nightclub. And I've got my back against this phone like that, so I could see through the gap without breaking these laws of that. So do you know what? There's two things that I can't offer an opinion on here. The commentary, I didn't hear how fantastic the commentary was until, and I'm not sure about this, it probably would have been after getting the video the following year to be able to watch the end of season review, I think, in the summer. And also the fact of how the ball got played up and how we ended up with the ball at Lukic's arms out to Dixon and forward like that. All I could see was the camera moving, going this way. So I knew that we were attacking because, again, as I say, this is a box TV that was like so far away. So, I just remember the camera going fast like that, thinking, well, we've got the ball up there. I'm pretty sure of that. And then noticing that the ball had been played through. And then obviously, because it zoomed in, I knew that there must have been a chance. You could see that the stands come into view. So you know how far up the pitch it's gone. And then the fact that everyone that's in the pub that's paying attention to this, the noise, and then just going absolutely mad, running up and down the stairs and just going crazy. And again, I'll still tell you to this day, you wouldn't think it. There's still diners in that restaurant that are thinking, dinner. What is going on out there? And, you know, it's just mad. And it just, well, I'll never ever forget that. Just the sheer joy. But me being on my own, you know, my mum and sister are sitting in the restaurant somewhere, and I just think I've got to phone my dad, and he doesn't answer the phone afterwards. And it's just me on my own for ages, just thinking this most amazing thing that happened in my short life to that time.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Brilliant,
it's just such a great story. So, Rich, I don't know this bit because I see you. Well, we'll talk about that in a second. So from where we were, they were coming towards us. Okay. So Dixon passes the ball and the rest is history. But what was your thoughts at this moment? Did you think this is it? This is our last chance?
So the first thing, I mean, just picking up on Kevin Richardson, I thought he was one of the most underrated players that we had that season. He was fundamental in so much that we did in terms of winning the ball, giving the ball to the creative players, and a massively underrated player. It reminds me of myself, you know, a bit of a hard nut midfield player, you know. But all joking aside, but you know, I mean, yeah, when that ball went to Lukic and then out to Lee Dixon, we were all very mindful of, you know, the whistle was going to go imminently, and it was just screaming, get the ball forward. And then when the ball went forward from Lee, you kind of, you know, what's he done there? Because, you know, it was quite obvious. It looked like the ball had fallen short, actually, but somehow Smudger had seen him and turned, and then kind of before you know it, Michael's steaming through, and then your hearts are in your mouths as you're watching this unfold, and you know, you watch it now and it's quick, right? But at the time it felt like we were in kind of slow motion. Yeah. Oh my God! I'm getting emotional now.
Yeah.
I watch 89 or I watch Fever Pitch, and I'll get emotional every single time.
They nailed it in Fever Pitch. Fever Pitch. The filmmakers nailed it. They nailed that scene, didn't they? Because that's what it felt like. It was brilliant. Sorry, Rich.
Changing the subject slightly. I mean, I made my daughters wanted to watch Fever Pitch the other day, literally last week, and I put it on, and they were bored during the whole film. Except when I jumped up when Smith scored, and then at the end obviously they saw me getting quite emotional about it. I went, Dad, what's the matter? What's the matter? Oh, ain't nothing. It's just one of the happiest days of my lives. They couldn't believe it, right? But this is something that happened in '89, and I'm watching a film about it, and it still gets me.
Yeah.
So going back to the game, we're like, fucking kick it, maybe, kick it. And then before you know it, it's in the back of the net, and then just bedlam absolutely sets in, and the whole of the Arsenal end is going absolutely mental, just eruptions of cuddling and joy and screaming, and just almost just couldn't believe it, really. Rolling around on the floor for a little while, then you're up again, then I'm going this way, going that way, and then somehow I ended up from row 40 on that side of the away end at the front. I don't know how I got that. It was all seater. How did I end up down the front? I have no idea. And then suddenly I've come run back up, and I've seen Amanda. I don't know how, but I've grabbed hold of Amanda, give her a big kiss. We're cuddling, going absolutely mental, and then you just crazy times. Unbelievable.
It was mad for me because I hadn't seen anyone all day I knew. Anyone I sat with, I didn't know anyone. And we didn't have social media, so you didn't know anyone from Twitter or Facebook or Life. It was only people from Highbury that I knew. I didn't see a soul. I mean, I was with my dad and another one, and my brother was over a bit further towards the stand-in with my cousin, and we couldn't even see them. But then all of a sudden I see you running up flights of stairs over chairs. I was like, Rich, I can't believe we've won this. And it's like, I actually think, if I'm honest, I went into shock because I couldn't speak for a bit. And that's very rare, I know. But I went into shock. I kissed you, cuddled you. I don't know how we said goodbye, but you went running round. I just didn't know what to do. I remember we had a funny story when we came out because Dad drove and we parked in Stanley Park because you could then. And my dad wanted to talk to the whole world. And these police officers came up to us and my dad went, I'm sorry, I'm just so happy. And they went, we're happy for you. We're Evertonians. So everyone was, and I think he kissed the police. He was shaking her hand. I can't remember. There's only snippets of things because I remember coming home and I saw the coach on the M25 and I wanted to follow him. But we all went home then, because we're from Essex. So we carried on. They went off to Southgate. But I remember, never forget seeing Nigel Winsburn with the cup, jumping up and down. So we've got all these wonderful stories and memories and things. And it will never leave us ever because look, 31 years tomorrow, we all went to bed tonight praying and hoping. We all have different stories where Sophie was, Rich, where you were, Alan, you were flying off to Guernsey the next day, Kev was with the players. And there's millions and millions of Arsenal fans around this world that have got amazing stories. And that's why I wanted to do this pod today because I didn't know your story, Rich. I only saw you for a few minutes. Alan, I didn't know your story, which was fascinating. And I'm so pleased that we've done this. And, it is hard because people go to me, you're going on about Anfield. Were you there? Were you there? I don't even care when people say it. I don't care. Yes, I was there. And it was the best ever footballing night of my life. End of. I can't see anything beating it unless we beat Tottenham in the Champions League final in the Nou Camp in the last minute. Can anything beat that? I don't know. A lot of Manchester City fans and of course a lot of modern day fans, they always point to the Aguero goal. Now, was that an amazing moment? Absolutely. When I watch it now, even as a non-fan, does it make my hair stand on end? Absolutely. The fact they had that day and that experience, that last gasp to win the league, but not only to win the league, but to beat Man United. Yeah, they took it off United. That was unbelievable. But they were playing QPR, who had already been relegated, right? And even though they lost, somehow they survived. What Arsenal did in the 80s, to have to go to Liverpool Football Club, who were dominant, European Cup winners, perennial Division 1 champions, some of the best players, the best defence. I mean, the most amazing manager as well in Dalglish went from, lauded player, legend to manager. To go there and win by 2 goals and not concede at Anfield, there is no better... There's no comparison. Club result than that. I mean, it was.
They were going to win the league. We stopped them winning the league as well.
This would be $1 billion football game today. If this was happening tomorrow night, where we wouldn't, this would be $1 billion match because the world would watch. It would be as big as Super Bowl, World Cup audiences, Champions League final audience.
Oh, God, yeah.
It would be absolutely massive. And if Arsenal had done that in today's world, in terms of where we were at as a club rebuilding compared to Liverpool, it would be even more significant still than the Aguero goal because of the opponent.
And you know, the most amazing thing is when they did the 89 documentary and I did some work for Arsenal Fan TV and I interviewed every single player. That was the second best footballing night of my life when I got to speak to Thomas and Adams and O'Leary and Ian Wright was everyone. I didn't know to speak to first and interview because, as you know, I'm not an interviewer.
George, you spoke to George, didn't you?
I did, but I didn't interview him. But I spoke to George after and we had a nice chat. And Theo Foley, and I knew him from way back.
What he did that season with that team, and
that's why it's upsetting, isn't it, Soph, when they don't talk about him, only Wenger, because what he only did for people our age or a little bit younger, they just don't get it. They don't get what Richard and I sat with at Highbury and Alan did with Terry Neal and Don Howe, and Kevin and I have been speaking about that this week. He changed it as much as Wenger. Wenger did
in a different way.
In a different way.
When I watch The Last Dance, a lot of the time I'm thinking about people like George Graham. I'm thinking about the unforgiving in order to win. That, and Kev's lived it, and he's been managed by this man, and it's the softness of today's game, I think, as well, that makes us still appreciate 89. Because even though, it was different then, at the end of the game, there was still huge respect. Someone wrote on the chat, would you clap for Liverpool if it was the other way around? Of course, I think Arsenal fans would have in the moment of what it was and what the game was. But the fact that players kiss in the tunnel, swap shirts at halftime, I think for me, The Last Dance reminded me of that moment and also the rivalry with Vieira and Keane in the 90s. And, it's okay to hate in sports because at the end of the day, we shake hands, right? Or that's at least what we think that we do. But it's okay today, sometimes I'm going to be honest, on Twitter, I write something and I delete it because I'm like, I'm just going to get shit for that because my mindset is a little bit tougher than the modern day fan. I think KC and I talk about this a lot as well in terms of mentality. And I think George Graham epitomizes this strength that Arsenal had. And without him, I don't think we would have had that trajectory. I don't think Wenger comes to the club. I don't think any of that happened. So his importance is absolutely as important as Arsene Wenger, maybe more, to be honest with you.
I agree. That propelled us back into being a big club.
But it has to be more because, on Twitter, I argue it out all the time. I can't stand those fans that don't want to pass credit to George Graham. I can't stand it. And maybe you shouldn't read it. Maybe you shouldn't get involved with it. But it's something that usually riles me, and I'll always rise to it. And I'm ready to dive in and say, without George Graham, Arsene Wenger doesn't happen for a number of reasons. His period at the club does not happen without Arsene Wenger, and it cannot be underestimated. Ever cannot be underestimated.
Al, Rich, I think a lot of the times people don't understand about if you're going to build something, you need a strong foundation.
Yeah,
and we know the early 80s were brutal for us.
Yeah.
As a football club, we were all over the place.
Yeah.
But you know what they say? Every cloud has a silver lining. What was happening was we're starting to see some of these young players who were being developed through the academy at the club start to come to the fore. Tony Adams, Paul Davis before him, Rocastle, Quinn, Merson started to come through. Martin Hayes, who, doesn't get the plaudits either because, he was at the club, but he scored 20-odd goals, He's good players who, when George Graham came in, realised, I've got some talent on my hands. But it still takes a really good manager to incorporate that and build a strong foundation. And that's what he done. Look at the signings he made. He bought Perry Groves for peanuts. He brought in Lee Dixon, Steve Bold, Nigel Winterburn came in. You know, that was that famous back four, back
Very
five
shrewd.
type thing.
Very shrewd, boys.
Very shrewd. How many fans right now, if we went out, if Mikel Arteta went out and bought players from the Championship, how many of our fans will be going ballistic? They're not good enough. They can't do this. They can't do that. It's crazy.
But I'll tell you what the opposite is, Kev. I probably shouldn't get riled by it. I probably should just switch off the phone and just get out in the sun or something. Yesterday, the club dedicated the day Thomas Rosicky Day, and you get everyone replying saying how wonderful Thomas Rosicky is. That's a guy that shirked some massive games in the Arsenal shirt. He was hardly ever available. Look, don't get me wrong, he was a good player. He scored some good goals against Tottenham. That's the furthest I'm ever going to go about him. We've mentioned players on this podcast now, Kevin Richardson, Perry Groves, Paul Merson, players like that. Martin Hayes doesn't get an inch of the credit. You know, why is it not Martin Hayes' day on his birthday or the day he signed for Arsenal?
I agree with that.
See better reason than a shirker like Rosicky getting it. And after it, they said he's the first player signed during the Emirates era. And it sort of, I thought, do you know what? That's fitting.
There's a lot. That actually says a lot to me.
Set the tone, didn't it, really, for the Emirates era?
I read that and thought, yeah, that's about right for me. A player that is half decent on his day, but did not put in the work rate, did not put in the effort, did not care about the club, and then gets fated as a legend 10 years later when there are proper legends at this club that we somehow ignore because they weren't around in the time of Twitter.
Alan, it's a good point. I mean, how you've described Thomas Rosicky, and you know, we've all enjoyed moments when he scored and played well, but how you've summed up kind of the whole attitude and lacking in so many ways, I think can be said about a lot of players that have been bought since we've been at Emirates.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, you know, the list is endless, sadly.
But that's the culture change, isn't it? The Wenger inherited a little of the old Arsenal, a lot of the old Arsenal, and he rolled with that. But then when it came to a blank canvas and a clean slate, you know, the truth is, for a long period of time, he couldn't replicate it, could he? I mean, yes, he bought the Vieiras and the Petits of the world, and Thierry came in, and there was some great, but there was some donkeys as well along the way, big time. And that era of not being competitive in the league to win the league and finishing fourth, you know, George Graham never had that mentality, but also the game changed and it became a lot more money driven, didn't it? And it became much more about the bottom line. But at the same time, we created this, you know, I know Ashley Cole's come out and said a few things this week, but we did create this kind of foo-foo. It's a little bit like the metrosexual personality, you know, and I say that with the utmost respect, a little bit softer, kind of men versus boys type. And I think that was the shocking thing for our generation to see Arsenal change that culture. And hopefully Arteta can rebuild that. And before we go, and we've lost Amanda because her computer crashed completely. So I just want to wrap this up, and you guys have been great, and sharing these stories has been amazing. And I love that part about football. But before we go, I'd love to get your take, because we've talked about Graham, we've talked about Wenger, and we're hoping the next manager who's going to have massive influence on our club is going to be Mikel Arteta. He does seem like he's cut from a different cloth. Before we head out, just wanted to get both of your takes on what you think of Mikel.
Shall I go? So for me, I think he gets the club. He knows the club. He understands the journey that we've been on. I think he appreciates what the fans want. He knows we've struggled and suffered for a few years. I have faith in him. I think he can build a strong team for us to be consistently up there with the top 4, top 5. But he needs to be given time. I think the problem nowadays with modern football fans particularly is that they have got no patience whatsoever. You touched on the kind of the hybrid era, if you like, the 80s. You know, we went through, Kevin, you'd mentioned earlier, you know, we went through lots of dross. Yeah. I mean, I've been going myself since 1975, 76, 77 regularly. And you know, I've seen some dross over the 70s. I've seen some dross over the 80s, but I've been patient. And you can't win a trophy every single season. There are only 4, I think, that are really of any note every single season now. There never used to be 4. So I think fans have to be patient. But I think that's just the world in itself. People want everything now. And I think Arteta, given time, given the right investment, I think he will build a very, very decent squad, and I think we'll be up there challenging for honours. So I'm an Arteta fan.
I love that patience that the older generation fans have. You're 100% right, Rich. Bang on there. Alan, what are your thoughts on Mikel?
Well, I mean, Richard makes a good point in how much football has changed. I'll tell you how much football has changed. And again, this is another thing that people don't believe. But if you check the stats, this is exactly right. Unai Emery left Arsenal after 51 Premier League games. His points total from those 51 Premier League games was exactly, and I mean exactly, the same number of points that Arsene Wenger got from his first 51 Premier League games at Arsenal. It's just the expectation was totally different. He performed exactly the same as Wenger had in Wenger's first 51 games. Obviously, in games 51 to 70, we went unbeaten and then won the double in 98. But no one was to know that was to happen. He could have easily been sacked at that 51, but the expectation level wasn't there. So with Unai Emery being sacked at game number 51, and I agreed he had to go, you saw an exact illustration that it performed exactly the same as Arsene Wenger had, and Arsene Wenger was allowed the time to go on and do exactly what he did because the expectation level was low. The expectation level now with Mikel Arteta is about at the right. We've managed to simmer down all the Arsenal fan TVs and everything else and all the other aspects of the club. Hopefully that there's no stupidity out there in that we're quite happy to say, yes, there are clubs that spend more than us. Yes, there are clubs that are financed better than us. But as long as we're up there competing in that run, we know we can't win it 3 seasons running because City can spend and win 3 seasons running. But if we can compete 2 out of those 3 seasons and maybe still in the hunt around February, that's the kind of thing we're asking for. And hopefully, looking at some of those youngsters coming through, it's probably the kind of thing that Arteta can deliver in about 2 years' time. And I've got my fingers crossed that he can do that because he seems to get it, as Richard says.
Yeah, he wants to build a proper team. He's not about individuals. He's not going to take any shit from any player at any time. He's definitely learned under Pep.
If you're not putting away under Arteta, he
he doesn't care. That's why Lacazette wasn't playing for a few weeks. Yeah, I love that too. I love that about him.
It's about time he got some spirit back in this team, you know. And I think Arteta's bringing that.
I had this dream last night, Rich and Alan and Casey, that Marcus Thuram was playing up front with Saka and Martinelli. You know, I think that's tasty. I hope that we're able to, at least if we're going to buy a player and Oba's going to leave, there's something about Thuram. He has a bit of your predatory essence there, Casey. I don't know if you've seen him play at all, but he looks really tasty. And I'm going to give you the last word, Casey, because a lot of the times, I mean, to be able to kind of converse with players, Super Kev is always so supportive and generous with his time, and he supports a lot of different Arsenal pods and stuff like that. And for him to kind of interact with people's experiences at a time where he was part of the moment, you always love to hear that, don't you, Casey? And to hear these stories from then to kind of now is pretty special, right?
Yeah. Look, for me, it's about football is about the product on the pitch, and it's about the fan experience. Now, in '89, we get all of that. So whether you're at the game or not, look at the great experiences we're hearing from Alan and Richard. You know, one's in Guernsey watching it through a crack, you know, with his back to the payphone, which is a fantastic story. One's at the ground and enjoying himself, singing his heart out. And their stories connect so well. I was there. You were in London, Sophie. I know Amanda was at the game. But there's so many fans who are going to be watching this, who are going to be so delighted to hear the stories. Amanda's back. Good to have you back, Amanda. For me, as a player and a fan, I think being a club that Arsenal are, a big club that Arsenal are, you look at these moments, you have to have these moments to be a big club. You have to. Yeah. Now, we talked about early 80s where we were served up some dross. It was very difficult. But as we said, there's a silver lining in all them storms. So the young players were starting to get acclimatized to the first team. And then what happened when George Graham come? Bam. We took off 86, 87, obviously beat Spurs in the trilogy, etc., etc. And that was the making of George Graham. Beat Liverpool in the final, which is why probably Richard had that mentality. We could do it. George Graham had that mentality. We can do it. Because Liverpool were the yardstick, wasn't it? We know that. And then moving forward, a couple of years after 89, 91, won the title clear with beating Liverpool. And, you know, that was the second time beating them in 3 years. Now, that shows you Arsenal have arrived. So, moving forward into Arsene Wenger inherited that toughness, that mentality. And anybody going to Highbury under George Graham knew whether we won or lose, it was going to be a game. We were going to battle. You knew what to expect. I think under Emery and the back end of Wenger, we knew it was going to be decent football, but it's that fight. Seeing Arsenal getting bullied and getting blown off the pitch before half time, that's not Arsenal. That's not Arsenal. So fingers crossed, Mikel Arteta, it seems that he wants a competitive team. It's not about the name on the back of the shirt. It's about the badge and it's about what's in the shirt. So I think he's going to build a team. That's what we need. We need a competitive team.
It's a good point, Kev. I mean, that's something that in a player I want to see actually. That is what we need more of. You know, it's all very well you've been able to beat 10 players and score 5 goals a season. I want to play with spirit. I want a player that works hard and is proud to play for that shirt. Because we're all proud to be Arsenal fans. I want players to feel the same way, even though some of them might not be with us for that long. They should play with pride for Arsenal FC.
And I think in some of these younger players, it's been so wonderful, hasn't it, to see the emergence of Saka and what a shrewd buy Martinelli was, especially when other teams whiffed on him. They played fearless football, and that is a really good thing for us to see. That we've had a lot of youngsters that have come through that just haven't worked out. Remember, we had that British core that we relied on, that we thought were going to be hopefully, you know, a little bit of a, doing the United thing, and that never happened either. They didn't fulfill. So Amanda, welcome back. We were just wrapping up because Rich and Alan, I asked them to share their thoughts on Arteta in terms of where we've been, where we're going, what their belief is. And then KC, I was having him just wrap up in terms of what that means from where we've gone in 89 to the middle of the road, times with Wenger, the great times with Wenger, and now where we are at with Arteta. And your computer crashed on you because you probably didn't update your anti-Norton virus or whatever it's called.
No, my computer is about 15 years old, and so many times I've been on pods and it's just crashed, and that's it. I am getting a new one. I've had enough, honestly. So old.
Well, we're an hour and a half in, and it's been amazing, hasn't it, Amanda? Yeah, I think,
honestly, I could talk for hours. So I really want to thank Richard, my old mate, and Alan, my new mate. That it's been brilliant. Cheers. I hope you've enjoyed it. Sorry, I crashed out. I'm back to say goodbye and thank you.
So you don't want to talk about the celebrations after when we got back and all the rest of it. We'll do that another time.
Did I see you the next day at home?
Another time.
No, that's another pod, late at night, midnight or something. But anyway, so thank you so much. And so thanks for covering for me in your most professional way as ever.
Always.
Casey, thanks for being the brilliant you. And, for everyone, Casey's doing loads of interviews with fans. Me and Sophie have done it. And he's just done one with Tiffany. And he's done one with his friend up. What's his name? God, your friend in
there's Budgie.
Simon
was brilliant. He's doing interviews, and they're so good. They're so interesting. I've loved them. So well done, Casey.
You find that on YouTube. It's called Who Are You? And it's under Kevin Campbell's name. So go check it out because
it's fantastic. It's
brilliant.
Can I just embarrass Kev a bit? Well, look. 89, I get the season ticket the year after. They used to do this thing where you used to be able to play for the junior gunners against whichever team we were about to play, supporters club, if they had one. So if we were playing Southampton and the junior Saints came down, we'd play them in the clock end on the pitch, that little AstroTurf.
Little Astro, yeah.
Have lunch with them, then go down. Now, you would have to go down through what was the players' car park at the time. And I managed to suss this out with my cousins, and we were thinking, well, I tell you what, we can, if we stick around and don't go with a group, surely the players will be coming in a minute. And they did. And there was a guy called Charlie who used to be in the car park there. He only had a stub of his finger, didn't he? Do you remember?
Yeah, I remember Charlie. Yeah.
Yeah, and you used to rub his finger and you'd score a goal that day. Do you remember that?
Well, I rubbed it and I scored. So it was. We're always going to try and do it then, weren't we?
But Kev was the nicest of the players that would ever stop and chat with us. Him and David Hillier would always stop and chat with us because David was from there.
We love David.
They would stop and chat with us for 10 minutes, which felt like an hour when you were a kid talking to a player. So thank you, Kev.
No problem, Mal. No problem, mate.
We're ending this on a loving. How lovely. So hopefully you two will come back again when hopefully we get some part of the season started. We'll have to wait and see. Hopefully we'll get back to normality. Stay safe, all of you and your families. Keep well. And always Arsenal.
Always. Thanks, everyone. Lovely chatting.
Top shelf chat.
Yes.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.